Hello to all and welcome back to Should You Get. I'm Brother Templar, and for today we're going to look at the second aircraft on the new patch of 1.63, also known as Desert Hunters. Now for today we're going to look at the P1Y1, an aircraft that, if you've already seen my undead P1Y1 video, then you probably already know my opinions on, but don't go away if you have, because there's a lot more to see than that. We've got to look at all the specs as well as its history to see what made it what it was. But as per usual, if you don't care much about the history of this aircraft, then skip to the time on your screens now. Otherwise, let's get into the history of this aircraft. Now, I just want to say that despite my best efforts, I couldn't find much information on this aircraft. So this is probably going to be quite a short history lesson, but oh well, let's get into it nonetheless. So the P1Y Ginga was designed from the Yokosuka Naval Air Technical Arsenal to the Army specification of 15 Shi. This was calling for a fast bomber with a speed matching that of Zero's, and a range matching that of the G4M, the aircraft that of course was the predecessor to the P1Y. Now the range of the G4M was in fact 3,700 miles, meaning that of course it would have to do at least that, and with a bomb load of at the very least 907 kilograms, and also to have the ability to not only dive bomb but also carry torpedoes. This made several problems for the aircraft, and indeed in its construction it suffered from an excess of complexity due to it having various roles, but also its difficulty to manufacture and poor serviceability due to the lack of the Nakajima Homare engines that were intended to be used on the design. However, it is worth noting that the Mitsubishi Kasai engines were used in the P1Y2S Night Fighter variant. However, a bit of off-topic information is the man who was in control of streamlining the design of the Ginga was a man by the name of Miki Tadano, an engineer who, after the Second World War, actually used his knowledge of aerodynamic designs to actually make the first Japanese bullet trains. So, there you go. Who says that war's all about making, designs to kill people, eh? The first prototypes flew in August 1943, and 1,102 designs were manufactured by Nakajima altogether. Now, the P1Ys were used all over the Japanese Empire, from China to Taiwan, Philippines, and so on and so forth. They were mainly used as land-based medium, torpedo, and dive bombers throughout the war, and during the last few months of the war, they were used as kamikazes against the United States Navy, mainly during the Okinawa campaign, which was of course one of the final campaigns of the war. Now, as already mentioned, there was a night fighter variant, the P1Y2S Kyoko, or the Aora. This aircraft was equipped with a radar and the Skaiga Musik style upward-firing 20mm cannons, as well as a forward-firing 20mm cannon. All in all, 96 were produced, but ironically, due to their poor performance at high altitudes against B-29s, they were all converted back to regular Ginga bombers. And strangely enough, for those who don't know what Skaiga Musik actually translates to, it's German for strange music. I'm not entirely sure why it's called that, but I guess I can sort of understand. Maybe it has something to do with the noise of something beneath you don't expect it, so it's this strange music of bullets hitting you, or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but either way, it's quite an interesting name, and I quite like it. And that's all I could really find. I told you it'd be quick. But I'm not entirely sure why, though. It's so poorly documented. There's very little on it, and I can only assume this is because it's a very late introduction to the war. It was introduced in October 1944 and retired at the end of the war, so all in all it didn't have very long in the war. So maybe that has something to do with why it's not very well documented. But either way, let's get onto the aircraft in-game and see how well it performs. So then, the P1Y1 Mod 11 is an aircraft that sits at a battle rating 4.7 in Tier 4. Now, let's get into the positives of the aircraft before we get into anything else, and see what's great about this aircraft. So, the first positive of this aircraft is that since it is a dive bomber, it gets air brakes. And air brakes are always a good addition to any aircraft, and indeed it means that if you want to land rather quickly, or you want to drop speed very quickly, then it's very useful for doing things like that. So now we've concluded everything that's good about this aircraft, let's now look at all the bad things about this aircraft. So basically, let's look at the rest of the aircraft. And I mean, where do I begin? Well, let's start with what you're about to see. So I dip down, get onto the gun, don't realise the water's that close, destroy my propellers, because I'm an idiot, firing out the PC-3, on point, on target, yep, getting him, getting him, one hit, does no damage, and I'm dead. And yeah, that pretty much concludes the defensive armament on this aircraft. But since I'm such a nice guy, I'll go into it in a little bit more detail. You see, you have 120mm in the front nose turret facing slightly downwards, so basically completely useless at defending yourself, and 120mm in the back of the cockpit. Now, both of these guns combined, you will find yourself having massive blind spots all around your aircraft, as if an enemy attacks you from your sides, from below, from above, from directly behind you, from directly in front of you, and from in front and above you, you have absolutely no way of hitting them. But let's say an enemy aircraft actually strays within the few areas your turrets can fire. How good are they then? Are they quite powerful? Are they useful? You know, are they good? Are they good? And, well, no, not really. You see, you have two 99 Mod 1, or is it Type 1? Oh, I always forget. But 20mm Japanese cannons, basically. And simply put, they're okay as far as guns go. They have a low rate of fire and have very low velocity, but they are fairly accurate even when not upgraded. But let's say, in the extremely rare situation that you don't die within 3 seconds of so much as a pelican looking at you, and you actually survive long enough to reload one of these crappy guns, then you'll be happy to hear that the reload times are lightning fast. You're looking to reload a magazine-armed weapon, so magazine people, not belt or anything, magazine 1 minute 16. For my crew. I mean, technically it will vary depending on how experienced your crew are, but my crew, who are about medium experience, halfway up the experience tree for like reload speeds and all that, 1 minute 16 to reload a magazine. 1 minute 16. Like, I've never even touched a Type 99 cannon in my life, and I can tell you that I could reload that faster. Alright, with absolutely no experience of reloading 20mm cannons, I could reload that faster. So yeah, that's another great part about this aircraft. But how about bomb load? Surely that's going to be a little bit better, right? Just a touch. And well, its bomb load isn't bad. You're either looking at two 250kg bombs, two 500kg bombs, or one torpedo or one 800kg bomb, which is basically, give or take, identical to the Kai 43. So you have almost the exact same armament as a Kai 43, simply put. So, yeah, bomb load is okay, but for a 4.7 barrel ring aircraft, it's pretty poor, and considering it's one of its only purposes in this game is to basically bomb, because God knows it can't do fuck all else, That's pretty pathetic. I mean, hell, for an aircraft that's supposed to be an entire .6 of a Battering higher than the highest rated Ki-49, it's not much better, considering that yes, it's slightly faster, and it's slightly better at turning, but other than that, it doesn't have much else going for it. It's got vastly worse armament, can't take hits anywhere near as good, and you get all of these great benefits for a bomber at the price of everything that a bomber actually needs, like durability and defensive armament. And at the maximum bomb load capacity of 2 bombs, frightening I know, this aircraft is, well, just it has no durability at all. You drop 1 bomb or 2 if you're lucky, you'll maybe get a few hits on targets, and then you're done. I mean, seriously, one of the highest bomb loads this thing has is 2 500-kilogram bombs, which is the equivalent of the Typhoon or the Tempest fighters on the British tree, who can have up to 2 1,000-pound bombs. So, when you're a bomber, and yet your bomb load is exactly the same as fighters, then it's probably fair to say you're not a very good bomber. Other than that, this aircraft does have a couple of features that are, well, okay, I suppose. Its turn time, you're looking at around 26 seconds, which is, it's okay. I mean, you'll be able to turn with most bombers and some heavy fighters, well, most heavy fighters actually. But other than that, there's nothing else for it. Most of the time you'll be coming up against fights anyway, so it won't make much of a difference. And you're also looking at its super fast speeds, which once again aren't very impressive. As in worst case scenario, you're looking at the altitude of 0 meters, you're looking at about 311 miles an hour, and best case scenario is 5,000 meters, which you're looking more at about, well, 345 miles an hour. Which for a bomber is okay. In fact, is actually fairly fast for a medium bomber, but once again, it doesn't make a difference, because when a fighter's following you, be it heavy fighter, regular fighter, even light fighters, they won't struggle to catch up with you. And you can see right now, that's a B-25, and I'm in a fairly well upgraded P1Y1. That aircraft's a .7 of barrel rating lower than me. I'm only barely keeping up with it. I'm trying to get in front of it so I can use my 20mm gun on it, but I can't because it's too fast. So, yeah. Inevitably, you've probably realised by now that I don't like this aircraft very much, and that's because I don't. It's terrible, I hate it, and it should be at more of a battle rating of maybe 3.7, maybe even a 3.5. It's really bad. And it's just horrible to fly, and I hate every second I'm in it. So, all in all, it's an aircraft that isn't bad predominantly, well, other than its reload times are fucking atrocious, no excuses why they're so bad. But other than those reload times, everything else about it's okay, and if it's just put down like a battle rating, it would be bearable at the very least. And I can kind of see why Gaijin thought to put it so high, because it's a, 1944, 1945 aircraft. It's end war design, so naturally you'd imagine it would be pretty good. But apparently in War Thunder it's fucking atrocious. Maybe it's good in real life. I couldn't find enough information on it to tell whether or not that is the case. So, in conclusion, should you get the P1Y1? Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I just say watch this little clip of this B-25 and let it answer your question for you, because this is the strongest defensive armament I have against the B-25. So I thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you then.